let's start by just taking a look at this January 6th commission. This is Nancy Pelosi's commission to explore the terrible events that drove AOC into therapy when, whatever it was, hundreds of people charged into the Capitol to try and stop the certification of Joe Biden's election, right? This is obviously a partisan dog and pony show. Pelosi has made no bones about it. She pushed people off. She took more seats for the Democrats than for the Republicans and pushed anyone off who was going to take a partisan view, what she felt was a partisan view, that this was not that important. And it's painful to watch, right? It's painful for us to watch because it's so unfair. It's just so unfair what they're doing. I mean, Adam Schiff is up there. This is a guy who is one of the biggest liars in the country. I mean, this is a guy who went on television during this Russian collusion hoax with Donald Trump and said, I have in my hand, absolute proof, and I've seen the proof. I can't tell you about it, but oh boy, once it comes out. And of course, he had nothing. And he lied and lied and lied. And we see him on television now today, and they ask him questions with seriousness instead of asking him the one question: you were lying then. Are you lying now? So he goes into this it was very dramatic. Oh, he was crying. There were tears. It was so dramatic. I was so moved for him. Here's a little clip of Adam Schiff doing his thing.
And if we're so driven by bigotry and hate that we attack our fellow citizens as traitors, if they're born in another country or they don't look like us, and God help us. But I have faith because of folks like you.
What the hell is he talking about? What the hell is he even describing? He's describing America? Does he know? Has he ever been in a country where we attack people because they don't look like us? I mean, that is unbelievable. It is unbelievable. He went on to say, just because they lost an election, we have to accept that. Here are the Democrats on another January 6th in 2017, when Donald Trump was his election was being certified. They got up again and again and again and demanded that it not be certified. This is cut 29.
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Georgia on the grounds that the electoral votes were not...
There's no debate.
And I object to the certificate from the state of North Carolina based on violations of the Voting Rights Act.
There's no debate in the joint session.
I object because people are horrified by the overwhelming evidence.
Section 18, Title III of the United States Code prohibits debate.
I object. Objected to the counting of the electoral votes of the state of Ohio.
I object to the certificate from the state of Alabama. The electors were not lawfully certified.
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina because of the massive voter suppression and the closing of polling booths.
There's no debate. There's no debate.
16
There's
to 1.
no debate.
So first, I want to mention that there's Joe Biden, then vice president, doing exactly what Mike Pence did, making sure that the election was certified as the Constitution demands. That was the right thing for Biden to do. That was the right thing for Pence to do. If we're not playing by the rules, we're not playing at all. I mean, America is the rules. America is the Constitution. They are preserving the Constitution, and I'm giving credit to Biden for that, and I give credit to Mike Pence for that. But the America these people are describing, this entire dog and pony show, is not about the actual events that took place. It's about describing all of us, condemning this country as somehow being represented by these people, these hundreds of people who came in to the Capitol and, smeared dirt on the wall and did all kinds of vandalism and did attack people. And one of these officers who was defending the Capitol was a guy named Harry Dunn. And he uses the moment to basically say, this is America. And this cut... Listen, the guy's a police officer. I think he's a veteran. I don't want to run him down personally, but the things that he says are diluted. It's cut 21.
I mean, if you look at our history of American history, countries existed because they won a war, or colonies and state lines and boundaries exist because of violence and wars. So I guess it sounds silly, but I guess it is American. And but it's not the side of America that I like. It's not the side of that any of us here represent.
What country was not founded in war? What country hasn't defended its borders in war? Even the Indian nations were killing each other like crazy before the Europeans came over. The Europeans were just the strongest tribe, that's all. I mean, what are they talking about? What is this picture of America as especially evil instead of a picture of America as trying to rise above the usual history? And Dunn, this guy's a radical. I mean, when you remember in Kenosha, Wisconsin, they had that horrible riot after Jacob Blake was shot. This was a good shooting. This was a good shooting, meaning I'm using police talk. I mean, it was an appropriate shooting. He went in and he molested this woman. He ran out and the woman said, "He's got my child. He's kidnapping my child." And Blake reached into a car and they couldn't see what he was doing. They were shouting at him to stop. And finally they shot him. One guy shot him and there was a riot that caused more than $50 million in damage, right? And Tucker Carlson put out this tweet basically, describing this horrible destruction. And Dunn, the same guy, Harry Dunn, put out a tweet saying, here's Tucker Carlson's tweet. It says, "Kenosha devolved into anarchy because the authorities abandoned the people. Those in charge, from the governor on down, refused to enforce the law. They've stood back and watched Kenosha burn. Are we really surprised that looting and arson accelerated to murder?" says Tucker Carlson. And Harry Dunn says, why is murder an appropriate response to property damage, but property damage isn't an appropriate response to murder? Now, this guy it was not property damage. It's not property damage. I mean, this Jacob Blake was shot, and I guess what he's saying, that maybe the looters themselves were shot. Looters get shot because you cannot have a society that works that way. So this is the same guy, this radical guy. This guy has been convinced. And this is the way, at the same time, the press was covering all these riots, right? A year of riots, 2020, BLM, Black Lives Matter, with their clever title, but they were rioting. At least 20 people died in these riots. Police officers were killed. Federal buildings were burned down. Portland, Seattle, Minneapolis, Midtown Manhattan were left in absolute ruins. Businesses destroyed, dreams destroyed, lives destroyed. This is how the press covered it. Cut 2.
I want to be clear in how I characterize this. This is mostly a protest. It is not, generally speaking, unruly.
That ain't a riot, what we're seeing right now in Minneapolis.
They are strictly principled anti-fascists, and they've taken a principled stand to stand against white supremacists and white nationalists wherever they may show up.
I argue to you tonight, all punches are not equal morally.
It says it right in the name, Antifa, anti-fascism, which is what they were there fighting. Listen, there's no organization is perfect. There was some violence.
Any reasonable person would say we shouldn't be destroying other people's property, but these are not reasonable times.
But thank goodness for the looters, man.
And please, show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
I don't care that much about statues.
Shouldn't that be done shouldn't that be done by a commission or the city council, not a mob in the middle of the night throwing it into the harbor?
People will do what they do.
That's Nancy Pelosi talking. There was one clip that we didn't include, where Brett Stevens, the now a columnist for the New York Times, formerly of the Wall Street Journal, is sitting with another commentator. And Stevens says, look, thuggishness is wrong no matter who does it. And we should call it out. We, the press, should call it out wherever we see it. And the other commentator says, I disagree. That's what's driving us crazy. It's the unfairness.